Hello, this is Joe Glines, and today I'm going to cover using Hotstrings with from AutoHotKey with SPSS. And just real quickly here, just so you get an idea of where I'm getting this from. AutoHotKey is a free scripting tool, and I suggest going to autohotscripts.org if you want to download it, and you can come in here and you hit download. If you scroll down a little, you'll see in here like the expanded abbreviations. So, for example, if you type BTW, it'll put on the screen by the way for you. And of course, this is a simple example because you can use a couple letters and put in paragraphs of things, and you can do a lot more stuff. And there's a lot of other things, but today I'm just going to be covering Hotstrings, which is if you click here, you'll see these are the Hotstrings, and it'll go walk you through some of the examples. But I'm going to in this video show how to do some of the stuff with SPSS and how it just amplifies your ability to get things done very, very quickly with SPSS. So let me go ahead. I'm going to delete everything here because what I've done, and let me show you. This is inside my main AutoHotKey file. I have hundreds, if not probably 1,000 or so, hot strings. And what I've done is like on this one here, if I type RND period, this is just the code. So if it's a colon, an O, and then a colon, and then I type RND period, and then the two colons. This is just part of how AutoHotKey knows it's a hot string. So when I type RND period, it'll put to the screen this part. And so a real quick example, because I don't want to get too far off. And the other one is rand. So see how that sent it to my. It got rid of what I typed and then sent these keystrokes to the screen. And so I have a ton of these predefined, and what's awesome is using them with SPSS tied in with macros and just the regular syntax. It can save you an amazing amount of time if you have a toolbox full of macros and code you already leverage. So I'm going to say I22. This is because in AutoHotKey version 13, I have my macros predefined when I open SPSS, and I haven't yet figured out how to do that with version 22, and actually, so this was for version 21, but right now I'm using 22. So when I run this, it's going to go and run and define all my macros in the background, so they'll be available in SPSS's memory for me. Because I'm going to use some of them, it's still the hot strings, which is what my demo is about, is just because I leverage a lot of my macros that I have recorded, and now they're defined. So let's get going here. So let's say you're working on a data file that you use a lot, and I can just type get ABC period space, and nothing happens. Oh, sorry. Get IABC. And now this is a data set I did pro bono, and I did some work for somebody. So I can open it, and it's going to go. And it's going to open that data file. I know I need, oh, there it is. It did open, and I need that. I forget the exact syntax, but the data front to bring it to the operable command. So here is my data file, and because I don't want to just show you putting up the syntax, I want to actually show you how I can incorporate it and run it. So let's say I wanted to dedupe on a certain variable. And I don't see, I think I don't want to use email address in here because for obvious reasons. But ID, let me first get rid of email to make sure this doesn't show up. Okay, and let's make sure ID. Oh, of course, we got names. Clear that. Okay, so this is going to be the unique thing. And I'm actually pretty sure that there are no duplicates in this because online study, that should be their ID variable. But let's say, and that looks like it's numeric because it's right aligned, so I could say dedupe numeric, and now this just put up my macro call to run my macro on a numeric variable, and I think the variable's name was ID, and now it just ran my macro and said, yes, there's 172 unique fields, there's no duplicates. It would have showed it here, and it would have actually dropped the duplicates because that's what this macro does. So okay, and let's say I wanted to start doing some statistics, so I can come in here, and I'm going to copy this, and now another thing I do with AutoHotKey besides hot strings, if I just hit paste, right, it pastes all of them, but I really just want the first and the last one, because I like to use the word to in between them. So if I hit I think it's Control-Alt-F. What it did was it grabbed the first one, it deleted everything in between, put the word to, and then put the last one. So now, when I run my, this is my describer, I call it my describer macro. And it runs descriptives on whatever variables I put in here, and I can change the title. The title is going to be, wow, that's cool. Now when I run this, I wish I was doing this in version 13 because my scripts actually go back in and do some more stuff. However, this, and actually interesting enough, it looks like I have the, I'm displaying the variable names instead of labels, because I'm pretty darn sure I have labels on these variables. Yes. So, and I think I have a hot string to change it back, but I can't remember at the moment. And that's part of the issue is, of course, when you have so many of these things, you have to remember what it is. But let's say I wanted to do some checking on a string variable, and so let's go in here, change this view, move over. Well, you know what? I'll just do an example of the syntax. So, if I type flag, this puts in my example. So this is my macro called flag. It's going to look for @ti, and it says, what variable do you want to look at? I want to look at email. It's going to create a new variable called ti. So if it finds @ti in the variable email, it's going to create a flag, and if I remember right, it puts a number 1 under the type command. So type will be either 0 or 1. And what's really cool here is see how I had it send notes to myself to remind me to make sure I use capitals, because apparently in this macro I didn't tell it to capitalize the thing. So when I type, so this part needs to be capitals. And granted, now I know how I can fix that, but what I like is I can add notes, not only just minimize it down to the things that I absolutely need to know for the macro call, which is why I rely on macros so much, but I can make notes to myself. So let's say, like if you wanted to drop some fields, right, or variables, I can say match file keep. So this is I could list out the variables I want to keep, or I can delete that and say match file drop. And I'm saying that because in my head I usually try to have like 3 letters. So this is the M is match, F is file, and D is drop, and then I put in a period, and the second I hit space, it swaps it out for me. Right, so it's super quick. Let's say I want to add something, and I can do it this way. I can say, and I'm going to do this one just a little bit differently and say, wow, period, and say, that was cool. And now what I'm going to show you is, notice here I don't have a space, okay? There's no space after the semicolon. There's no space after the exclamation point. Now watch what happens when I type wow period here. See how it added a space? It did that because I didn't have the O right here. Now if I put in an O and I save it and reload my script, my AutoHotKey script, and I go to run this, now when I type exactly the same thing, it doesn't put in the space. Right, so that's how I can control whether I want a space or not. And the other tricky one with macros is because the exclamation point is a system character for AutoHotKey when you're trying to send it, that you need to put it in brackets. And so that's why when I type these like DDAs, my dedupe alphanumeric macro, this is dedupe in multiple, so this could be variable 1 and variable 2, and dedupe numeric. Oh, you know what? I failed to mention one other thing. So let's go back and let's go to like sort. So in sort, did you see where my icon ends up blinking? Right? Let me do that one more time. Normally, you would think it would end up here after I replace it, right? But if I type sort period space, notice it went here. And what you can see is, from here, see this left 5? So what it does is it says, hey, first replace, when I type sort period, get rid of that, put in this, put in the A, and then go left 5 spaces, or sorry, characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it leaves me right where I want to be to type something. And that's another nice thing of, like, let's say I was actually doing some HTML code. And so I can say, so to me this is C blue, and it inserts the HTML code for the color blue, but it leaves me between my tags, right? So it's one more nice helpful thing that it can speed up what you're doing. But between that and that you can have notes, like let's say I wanted to aggregate a variable, right? I've pre-configured it. I don't have my break right now as anything. I already have this beginning part because what I usually say is, let's say we're going to break on gender, and this would be gend underscore CT, right? Because I want to have it as, this is like the count of gender is what I think of it. And then I can easily throw in here and say gender count would be the label for that. And then I can just run it. And if I always wanted the default to be on overwrite, or if I wanted to add some notes to myself, I could do that one above example and send myself some notes. Like when I do factor, I have it say, run my factor macro, have the start off with rotating it with Equimax. These are the variables I can put in here. But I put these right here that for the rotate, there's 3 options, at least that I remember, that I use. There's Equimax, Quartermax, and Varimax, right? And I have them here, so all I have to do is copy and paste if I want to change the rotation. And this I've predefined. I don't want to get into actually my macro for factor analysis, but it's just nice because I don't have to go find the text anywhere. I don't have to copy and paste it. I saw someone, I think it was John Peck, mentioned the other day, there's a toolbox thing that'll make them available. But this, to me, once you get familiar and you remember how your naming structure, it makes it a breeze to get your text. Like CW is it calls up my change width macro, and it puts in I'm a change width of email, have the default to 65. And so I've already put in example variables and values there to help remind me what to put in there. And it's so hard to describe it how much time this saves me. It's amazing, and you can see I have a lot of things going on. And this is my main one. I also, by the way, and by the way, this is site right here. Let me open, and it's a bad example, of course, because Word, which I used to use years ago for the autocorrect stuff, but I'm gonna say CW period, right? So my Hotstrings work in any program. Let me open up accessories and go to Notepad. All right, here we go. So here's Notepad, which everybody knows is pretty pathetic as far as its abilities to do stuff. So I can say I can run it there, right? If I type, and of course it's hard for me to misspell things on purpose. Thing. No, and I shouldn't actually have done that part. But how about WSA? No. What I was going to try to show you was I actually have a spell check running that has thousands of words that are built in. So in no matter what program I'm using, Instant Messenger, in Notepad, in SPSS, and actually so here for SPSS, you'll see it uppercases it for me automatically just because I like having that. Or I can say, like, regards Joe. Or let's say I was doing my online survey and I'm entering my scale. This would be my scale on a strongly agree disagree, and I have in the HTML for the line break, so it's strongly line break disagree line break 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 7. But it's just great because I don't have to go copy and paste it everywhere. It's always the same thing every time. You can have pages and pages of stuff that it brings up. It's just up to what you want to use and what you want to put in there. It just changed my world when I started doing it this way, because you can really, really, really get to be working on your analysis and not be trying to track down that code where you figured out your macro and make sure you go run it and then go read it. So you type your own notes. I'm trying to see where in here. Yeah, I have a lot of here. Here we go. So we're back in. So this is my HTML stuff, and these are email addresses. Let's just find SPSS. Oh, here we go. All right. And that's pretty much it, though. But you can see I have a ton of stuff predefined, like, and actually this one, the value labels, right? Because I always hate putting in the quotes around stuff. So I can type value labels, and then all I have to do is just go in and put in, what they are, and I don't have to put the one quote space. I mean, I'm a terrible typist, and so being able to do that, or I can say rename variables, and it comes up with this predefined format that allows me to just put in the old and the new, and I don't have to remember to put these brackets and whatnot. Or I can call up my let's see, my uppercase macro or my lowercase macro, and I can put in whatever variables I want. But you can see how once you get used to it, it just rocks your world. And that, like, here's my let's say I'm going to export it to Excel. So this predefines it, puts in a path, and I actually need to update this to have it use my defined path macro, which is here. I can put in a path here, and then what I normally do is I would say path plus this, and so up here this would have been the normal path, and then I can repurpose that over and over. And if I ever want to change path, or I've used this variable, this path, and throughout the entire syntax, I can change it one spot, and it'll be everywhere. Like when I say I'm going to add, so there's where and here I have incorporated it. So see where I'm matching files as a table, and I have the path to this. Well, normally I'm already using this path thing, so I don't have to go back and incorporate. It'll just borrow what I've already done. All I got to worry about is the file name. And I thought the other merge files, add files. There we go. And this one does the same thing, where I'm just appending them at the bottom. But you get the idea. It can just save an amazing amount of time. The quick advice I would have if you go down this path, it's very easy to use. But do yourself a favor, get in the habit of, for the most part, I either use like 2 or 3 letters, because you don't want one. Actually, for one, I do have some where I have like first names, things that I type a lot, right? But unfortunately, sometimes it comes up where, hey, you actually need that first letter and not have the abbreviation. But use usually 2 letters or maybe 3 letters. Use a period after it. It helps delineate, make sure you don't have false things that it'll signals that it'll set it off for. Or use a whole word that reminds you of what it is you want to do. And like, where did my, so here's my dedupe alphanumeric, dedupe multiple, dedupe numeric, right? So what I've done there is I keep the first 2 letters and change the third, and so it makes it easier. So, and where's my uppercase and lowercase? So uppercase, lowercase. See how one's UC and one's LC. It makes it a lot easier to remember, because once you start having hundreds of these, it gets really hard to keep track of everything. But if you can establish like a pattern, and like here, this is my match files keep and match files drop, right? Once you have that pattern, it'll help you remember them and not have so many that you have to remember. That's it. Thank you.